All right, you YouTube nerds. I'm sharing today a couple of things that kind of have going on as a whole, right? And specifically, I wanted to go through the LTD series guitars, like basically as a whole, right? And kind of talk about this particular model, which is the MH1000 Black Ocean Floyd Rose 6 string with Fishman Fluence moderns in them. And this particular guitar, this is the exact model, right, was supposed to be my, like, it was going to be mine, right? Like, not just demoing, not just doing sound samples. This was going to be my my new guitar for the collection. And this was going to be the first brand new guitar that I bought for myself, specifically in probably anywhere between 15 and 18 years, something like that, because I've always bought like lightly used or open box models. And for the most part, they never did me wrong until I got that Schecter SLS. That was probably the worst used guitar I've bought since becoming a guitarist. Like since I first started learning electric guitar. Anyway, this particular model is the MH1000 Black Ocean. It is it's still active, still uses a 9-volt battery. Floyd Rose 1000 SE, which is kind of like Schecter's. It's kind of like LTD's equivalent to a Schecter with the Floyd Rose 1500. Basically the same thing. They just call it two different things. Floyd Rose 1000 SE for the the stainless screws and everything, versus the Schecter 1500, which is stainless screws and pretty much the exact model. So with that in mind, I wanted to go through a couple of sound samples with it, see if there's any difference sound wise between this with the Fishman pickups as opposed to maybe the M1000, all right, with the same Fishman Fluence moderns. And give you a couple of clean samples, a couple of high gain samples, and then I'm going to kind of dig into likes, dislikes, and beyond. And we'll talk about beyond here in a second, whenever I can find a guitar pick to use. Hey, here we go. Okay, so clean, we're going to go right to it. Clean, I may or may not add some effects. And to be honest, I haven't even checked if I was in tune, but I can tell you this. I ended up using this at rehearsal yesterday in the studio. And for the most part, it sounded pretty good. I didn't have any real issues. The only time I really had any issues at all is more on the lines of temperature variation, because it has a tendency to be a little cooler in the studio than what was I saying? It has a tendency to be a little cooler in the studio than it is here at the home studio. Home studio here in Las Vegas, I'll keep it, 78, versus the studio at downtown, where all our equipment is, where the band rehearses and everything, it's usually like 75, like 74, 75 degrees. So even though it's not a huge variance in temperature, it's enough to usually throw guitar tuning off until that guitar becomes acclimated. So anyway, something to keep in mind for you guys, especially the ones that use the Floyd Rose and you have to constantly retune if you're going from place to place. Anyway, all right, so I'm in relative tune, whatever the fuck that means. Let's go to voice 2. Middle position. So something to note is that the second voicing on the Fishman Fluence Moderns, I don't know if I mentioned this when I was doing a quick playthrough of the M1000, is that the voice 2 position, or excuse me, yeah, the voice 2 with the pickup selector in the middle position is almost, it's almost like a fat single coil sound in a way. It kind of is. That's not really what it's designed for, because usually you would need either the Fishman Fluence Classics or the Fishman Fluence Modern Open Cores to access that third voicing, which is technically like a coil tap voicing or a split coil. But this does a relatively close job. Okay, back to the voice 2 middle position. Because typically if you were to keep it right, like any active, or even for the most part almost any humbucker pickup, once you go to the middle position you normally get like that fatter tone, but with this in voice 2, yeah, you almost got a single coil feel to it. So that's kind of cool, even though that's not really the intended purpose of using the middle position with voice 2, but it's almost there. It's almost like a fat single coil. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of like it's like an added bonus for the Fishman pickups as a whole, I guess. Okay, let's just go straight to high gain. It might be a little loud, so I'll have to wait for the sound to settle before I talk again. I'm just going to go through a little bit of everything without too much talking in between. Okay, so let's see what we got. Okay, so overall, it feels great. It really does. There's something about the MH series LTDs that just, for me personally, it just fits my hands so nicely. You know, I feel like there's nothing I can't do on the neck. It has, for me, it's the perfect thickness. It's the perfect shape. You know, the other guitar, or the only other neck shape that I can personally get along with is the ultra thin C that Schecter has, as long as it's 42 millimeters. For whatever reason, anytime I get a guitar that has like, if it's over 42 millimeters or over 42 and like, we'll say like 42 and a quarter, for whatever reason, I can't get along with it. You know, and it's like, you know, there's probably a lot of people out there that are like, well, you know, if you're that good, you shouldn't matter. But the thing is, when you're just so used to something and you go from one size to another, it's sometimes it takes a little bit to adapt. You know, sure, I could, you know, with enough practice, I can go back and forth, whatever. But anyway, you know, it's kind of something I want to point out. You know, if you're one of those people that are so serious about, you know, shredding and, you know, a lot of progressive riffing, staying within the same brand and same specifications is really your best bet to help continue uh, advancing in guitar technique. You know, it is really important. It's not something you have to worry about as a beginner or as probably not even so much as an intermediate player. But when you start getting to the level where you're playing shows and you're doing recording, that is when it really matters. That's when it really matters as far as staying within the same specs of a guitar. Anyway, it's kind of a ramble, but I kind of wanted to point it out too. Okay, so likes. First off, I already mentioned the neck. The fact that it's a gloss neck, for whatever reason, doesn't bother me one bit. And I'm so sick of a lot of the guys that are either writing reviews, blogs, doing videos, and they always complain about the gloss neck, gloss painted neck. Guys, I don't get it. I don't get why people have problems with a gloss neck. I played shows with guitars with gloss necks, sweated profusely, and never had a real problem. So take that for what it's worth. But guys, if you're seriously considering a guitar and it's a guitar that you really like, and the only thing stopping you is a gloss neck, put it out of your head. Put it out of your mind. Because I'm telling you right now, you might end up loving it. No problems here. None. Same thing with the Hellraiser that I had. No problems. I played a show with that. It's on the Feel Heavy channel. Feel Heavy band, for those of you who don't know, that is our Las Vegas-based original, we'll say, hard rock band. And in fact, I was actually just playing the beginning of one of our songs when I was going through the high gain. Okay, so again, pickups, they're fine. They're fine. I'm always going to be an EMG guy, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't want another flavor of active pickups. And these are really it. These aren't really made to compete with EMGs because they're not built the same. They are not made to play and sound exactly the same as EMGs. So for you guys that are like kind of like, oh man, Fishmans, if you don't like them, you don't like them. But stop comparing them to EMGs because they are not the same. They are not made to be the same. And that's what I kind of wanted. I wanted a different flavor because I already, I have my LTD Evertune that has EMGs. I wanted something different. Okay, so let's talk about, I'll continue on the likes. I like the Grover tuners, although they don't really do much for me because I've got a Floyd Rose with a locking nut. Floyd Rose itself, it's fine. I'm finding that now that I'm a little older, I'm not in my 20s, I'm in my mid 30s now. I'm finding that the Floyd Rose is not as cool to me anymore. I feel like, to me, having a real solid Tone Pros tunematic or an Evertune is far more enjoyable for me to have, for me to play with. Um, Setting up a Floyd Rose, yeah, I can do it. It's already done. I did it. I just don't enjoy it as much as I used to. So it works fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with the bridge. It works fine. It does what it's supposed to do. Um, Two different voicings like it. Now, let's get into the cons. Let's get into the things I don't necessarily like about it. Okay? So, for you guys that don't know, I may have mentioned this on the last video with the M1000, is that it showed up with a ton of finish flaws. Enough finish flaws where I was kind of like, meh, I already am not a huge fan of the M series, just personal preference. And the fact that it showed up on top of the fact that it showed up with finish flaws, I didn't like that. Okay, so this is the second brand new LTD that I actually purchased, and it has one fatal flaw from the factory. It is a build quality issue, and it is an issue that I cannot get along with. And I'm going to play something, again, in clean, and doesn't matter what voice I'm on, I'll stay in voice 1. And let's see if you guys can hear it. Okay? It only happens when I'm playing an open string. Which open string? And we'll get into that in a second. Okay, so hopefully that picked up on camera, but basically what it is that I'll start at the beginning. The nut is improperly installed. Not only is it improperly installed, but there's, if you guys aren't familiar with Floyd Rose and knocking nuts, underneath these lockers, there is the bridge set that's supposed to be set in right here on the neck, right below the headstock. And not only is it glued on, but they also have 2 screws that help hold it in as well. So basically, one of these screws on the high side, which would be bottom here, the screw hole is stripped. So the wood is completely stripped. So there's no tightening that. So I can continue to, I tried to tighten it because I noticed it wasn't staying in tune as well as it should have. And I went through 2 different packs of strings, 2 different brands, and 2 different sizes. And the nut, okay, it's not centered. It is slightly more towards the treble side, and the fact that this side is a little more loose because of that screw issue, this locker won't clamp down completely on the high E. All right, well in this case it's a D because I'm in drop C, but it won't clamp down all the way. So because it won't clamp down all the way, when I'm playing this string open, there is a slight buzz, and it won't ring out completely, right? So if I do the A string, or I'm sorry, B, it would be a B, rings out just fine. High E, you can hear there's a slight buzzing, but if I'm fretting, no problems. Open, there's like this deadening that's going on, as well as a slight buzz. And the only way to get it fixed is I have to actually I have my options of bring it to a local luthier or send it back for warranty work. And they have to, the problem with that is it doesn't matter if it's fixed for free. What they have to do is they have to pry this nut, set in nut out, and hope that they don't break something in the process. By doing that, you're gonna, the overall stability of this part of the neck and headstock are going to be basically compromised. So there is no way to actually get this fixed to the point where it's a new guitar anymore. And So that's why, especially when it comes to Floyd Roses, you have to have that nut perfectly centered. Otherwise, that's it. It's done. There's nothing you can do. Um, so because of that, there's no way that I can keep this because it's useless. It's not. Let me rephrase. It's not useless. It's not as useful for me since I play equal parts treble and bass side, right? So if I was only playing rhythm and I never played lead, or I never rang out any progressive chords, yeah, I'd probably get away with it. But at $1,300, is it worth keeping? No, not at all. And this has been something that's been going on with LTD, ESP, specifically with the LTD series and models, is that their quality control is just not there. It's becoming more like, it's like buying a modern vehicle right now, where nowadays, you're having all these issues with brand new modern vehicles. And yeah, you can, yeah, a lot of those issues can be fixed without compromising any other part of the vehicle, right? But in this case, can't do it because it's made out of wood. So aside from that finished quality issue, do I think this is worth the price? Yes, if it doesn't have this issue. So if you guys have been looking for this, looking at these models, the blue, Black Ocean in particular, I'd say it's 100% worth it, as long as you double check all of the quality, right? The quality of the bridge, the construction, especially right here where that locking nut is. And it doesn't even have to be a locking nut. I mean, if any nut on a guitar is properly installed, you're going to have intonation issues, you're going to have buzzing issues, you're going to have this, that, and the third. So something to keep in mind. It's a good guitar. The finish on this particular one, it looks amazing. I mean, that's a really nice finish. And guys, this is going to be another, this will be, if I return this is going to be an open box model, just like the M1000. If you can get this exact model, right, once it goes up on sale, probably will be on Guitar Center's website, just like the M1000. You'll probably be able to get a couple $100 off, and for probably $100, you can get this taken care of. Or if you want to deal with, have an ESP get the warranty work done to it, you'll save probably a couple $100. For me, it's not worth it because I didn't buy it as an open model. I didn't buy it as a B-stock model. I paid full price for this. So it's sad that it has to come down to that, just that one issue. But that one issue is actually a very big issue, unfortunately. So overall, I do think it's worth the price as long as the quality control checks out. But the fact that LTD has been putting out all these guitars with issues, with finish issues or quality issues, I don't know if I'm going to stick with LTD now. I still have my LTD M1000 Evertune. I'm never going to get rid of that, but I think it's time to move on and probably either go back to Schecter, or I might even go to Ibanez, but I can't really wrap my head around paying $1,500 for an Ibanez that has a bolt-on neck. I just can't do it. Maybe it's just me. I don't know, but something to keep in mind. Yeah, I mean, overall, if you're a huge LTD fan and you know what to check for when you first get a brand new guitar, or you know what to check for when you're looking at models, newer models, then yeah, I still think this would be worth it, but just something to keep in mind. All right, guys, good talk.